about now? Okay, great. All right. Hey, good afternoon. My name is Kevin Moats. I'm a technical account manager, Columbus, Ohio area, and get the opportunity to present my GPU virtualization in the home lab on the cheap today. So my website is moatspodgery.com. Definition of Moats Podgery is basically implementing something in a disorderly manner that still works somehow. Right? There's a much longer definition on my page, but I digress. So I'm happily married and live in Columbus. I have 2 children that seem like they're growing much faster than I can handle. And as they scale up, if you will, they have learned about technology, right? So they now have iPods, they have computers, they have iPads, and I wanted to, limit their usage on the computer and be able to control that, right? So like any normal parent, what I did is I ran out and I got some thin clients and provided them with some virtual desktops in my home lab on some Dell C1100 servers, and basically produce a Windows 7 desktop for them, right? So as my users start to scale up, right, I have to support more features and uptime, right? So things like Minecraft, Wizard 101, YouTube, Netflix, and because I'm not a terribly awful parent, stuff like MathFacts and other learning applications for the kids, right? So for those of you that aren't familiar with 3D graphics acceleration within vSphere, it was introduced in vSphere 5.1. And basically gives you the ability to do one of 3 things. One is you can check a box and use your processor within the ESX host to emulate artifacts such as OpenGL 2.1 and do some 3D graphics. And this works okay, and it works pretty well for MathFacts and a couple other very light applications, right? However, when you start trying to support YouTube and Netflix and some more advanced graphics capabilities, you need to move into what is known as vSGA. This is essentially where you take a supported or non-supported card, in my case, NVIDIA or other GPU that's on the list, and you put it in your ESXi server, you install a VIB, and you pass that information, or you pass that up to the ESXi operating system and basically virtualize that to multiple virtual machines. Now, if you want to support stuff like Minecraft or Wizard 101, which is a little bit heftier than that, you can use that same method using vSGA, but there's also an option of using vDGA, which is where you do kind of a direct pass-through of that GPU from the ESX host up to the individual virtual machine. In my case, the vSGA is a method that I chose to go with because I could do multiple desktops, 2 kids, on one host using one card. So, the GPU situation. I went out and researched the supported cards that you can do this with, and the one that I liked the best is a Grid K1. Costs about $3,000, takes a lot of power, doesn't fit in my servers, and is definitely out of the price range. And the wife was definitely not interested in letting me procure a $3,000 card just so that my kids could play Minecraft and Wizard 101. So after doing a bunch of research out on the internet and poking around, standing on some other people's shoulders, I ran across this specific model of a GT640, which only cost me about $80, I think. And it basically is based on the same core that the Grid K1 is. However, it has a little bit less power, it consumes a little bit less power, and the form factor is small enough to actually fit inside my Dell C1100 server. So I figured, why not? This is easy enough. So I broke out my soldering iron, as you can see here on the left, and my solder, and ran across this chart here at the top on the internet, and I believe it's Russian. Het says is no, so I had to remove a couple of resistors and add a couple of resistors of different values into this. And on the right here, you can see somebody's very nice professional soldering job that they did that I copied off of the internet. However, mine didn't look so nice. I don't know if you caught on the left here, but I actually used copper brazing flux to do this instead of proper flux because it's the only thing I had laying around at the time. But at any rate, once I got this soldering complete and I slapped that card in my Dell C1100, I went out to the NVIDIA site. I downloaded the proper VIB for vSphere 5.5. I installed it. It shows up as an NVIDIA Grid K1 card. Go out and check my box within the virtual machine, and presto, a Grid K1, right, for $80. So this is the functional use of my son using his eVGA with the Grid K1 on the left-hand side is the choppy one. On the right-hand side is the very nice clean one with the vSGA enabled. So it does work very well. I've actually had up to 3 separate virtual machines running on the same host using the same card at the same time, and everything runs flawlessly. All right. So, wait a minute, one more problem. I said this form factor was small enough to fit into my C1100. However, it didn't actually sit in the riser card like it was supposed to because the heatsink was in the way. So, no problem, just took it out to the shop, got my air saw out and modified the heatsink so that way it would actually fit in my Dell C1100. All right, presto, now vSGA works with vSphere 5.5 and my kids are happy. Then I upgraded to 6.0. So I don't know if it is a change in the VIB or the fact that somebody within product management caught on to this hack, but the 6.0 VIB does not work with it. You can install it, it seems like it's happy and it doesn't work, right? So I needed to go ahead and solve that problem because I wanted to keep 6.0 in my home lab, right? So there's always a use case for nesting. This actually was really fun to see whether or not this would work, and turns out it did. For those of you that aren't familiar with nesting, basically that's running an ESXi host inside of an ESXi host, mostly used for home lab and experimentation, processes, right? So what my use case was is I had 6.0 down here on the base platform, and I had my GT640 card in one of my hosts, and I had non-GPU accelerated VMs. So what I did is I did a direct PCI pass-through of that card to a virtual ESXi server running 5.5 on top of 6.0, installed the VIB, everything works just like it did before. As a matter of fact, the video that I showed previously was my son's machine running on the nested ESXi host, right? So this is all great, except for I forgot the high availability function, right? So kids are happy after nesting. Then they realize they have to do homework, and they're not so happy when their computer works, right? So basically I needed to increase my uptime and data protection in the environment because I had a couple failures where I had storage fail and host fail, and I've only had one host with a GPU in it, so when that host was down, my kids couldn't do their homework or watch Netflix or do any of their, play any of their games, right? So my original setup was two C1100s. I had a Nexenta SAN, backing that from a shared storage perspective. Presented those LUNs to the servers themselves, non-accelerated VMs on top of that, with the GPU in one being passed up to the ESXi host, right? And all is well until, I was backing everything up with VDP, and all is well until I lose storage. If I lose storage, everything goes down, my kids' machines go down. And if I lose the host with the GPU card in it, everything goes down. So in my quest to increase my uptime and make sure that my kids didn't look like this on a regular basis, what I did is I moved off of Nexenta and moved on to FreeNAS for my storage. The reason I did this is because there's a really awesome built-in replication feature with FreeNAS that will actually use the VMware snapshot APIs, and you can target a LUN through and give it your virtual center credentials, and you can snapshot and replicate one LUN to another, and it'll have crash consistent backups that are replicated to that other one. So I got this set up on a daily basis, and it goes through, snapshots it, and basically replicates it to a virtual version of FreeNAS that runs on one of my hosts, okay? So then that way, if it blows up, all I have to do is repoint my storage, or repoint back to the VMDKs that are on that shared data store that's coming from the local storage instead. So if that wasn't enough, I needed to make sure that I protected against two host failures. So what I did is I went ahead and hacked another grid GT640, put it in my other host, created another vSphere 5.5 nested host, or virtual ESXi server, put them in a cluster together, configured HA, DRS, all that good stuff, let the VMs run on top of that. So now if I have a storage failure, all I have to do is repoint, and I go through an outage, of course, in this case, all right, but I get to repoint and I'm back up within 5 or 10 minutes for the kids. And if I have a host failure, everything HAs over to the other host and continues to run. So, and there we go, an RPO of 1 day and an RTO of less than 5 minutes to get things repointed. And my kids are happy. Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this.